from there. What's your take on what's missed from before we even step foot to speaking with a candidate? What's your understanding of that? Because I include that as part of the interview process.
Yeah.
What's best practice there?
Uh, if I take the hiring process as essentially 5 steps, 5 dimensions: defining role, sourcing candidates, assessing and referencing candidates, making decisions, like the whole kind of running the process, sharing information and coming to a decision, and then the selling and onboarding. Of course, we're selling throughout. We don't want to wait to sell at the end. But if those are the skill sets, there's certainly failure modes in steps 1 and 2 before we see the candidate. Role definition, you've already hit on. I am a believer in scorecards. The approach, we call them targets at Talgo, and we really focus on, we don't have these as big 3-page documents that go into every specific thing of the to, from, and the how. You're hiring the exec to help you with the how.
Okay.
Get those clear indicators of how we know that we're going to be on track. Get granular about 90 days, 180 days, 1 year, wherever possible. But don't get way too prescriptive on the how. Love that. So there's a big mistake made where we don't get clear on what we want. And then the other part on role definition is a boilerplate list of like 30 generic wishy-washy competencies, like excellent communicator, proactive, team player, strong leader. I can't tell you how many times we really need a strong leader.
Self-motivated. I haven't seen a job spec without self-motivated being in there. And then when I ask how do you assess it, everyone says, well, I don't know, just gut fit.
If you're interviewing somebody and they're clearly not self-motivated or not a great communicator, you don't need this item on a list to tell you that we have a problem. We say keep that list short and tight and focus on what matters for this deal thesis, this organization, this culture, what really matters. It's about total transparency, right? Or it's about they need to thrive in an environment of heavy direct feedback. This company has a culture, and we as investors have a culture of very direct feedback. We need people who thrive on giving and taking, sometimes kind of harsh critique. If that's true for us, put it on there. If it's not, don't put it on there. But I would say there's also step 2, the sourcing step. Before we ever see a candidate, some searches I think are not set up for success because we've decided to prioritize impressive resumes. Big names and big titles that we think that we're using as a proxy for the kind of individual behind it. So saying we want someone who's had at least 3 prior private equity backed CF roles at or above the scale. And we're going to source candidates with that as a filter. That's a problem. I would argue. I've seen a lot of searches that have a problem where we say the criteria of success and the sourcing criteria is must have done this job multiple times before. You're essentially saying we're only going to look at candidates for whom this is a lateral move. We have created massive selection bias towards lower performers. The ones we really want to attract, the ones who are high performers, who are driven to achieve great things time and time again, are often the ones who are not doing the same job again. They're actually in a stretch role. They're making a step function leap from one place to the next. So we say, really make sure that from a search and a sourcing perspective, that we're not getting too enamored with resumes and titles and years of experience doing X, that instead we're diving into the hallmarks of high performance, people who have consistently delighted their most important stakeholders.